Hello again, this is Joel Ross. This is the first video from Module 1. Today we're going to talk about, and I'm going to talk about and demonstrate how we can use the basics of the command line. So in general, for these demos, I really recommend that you work along with me. Open up the program on your own machine, type out the same stuff I'm typing out, basically try things out as you go. You can always stop and rewind the video if you get stuck or you need some help or anything. But the best way to learn something is actually to try it out, to play around with it, and to see what happens. You can't really break anything. Can't really break anything. So just play around and give it a shot and see what you can do. All right. There we go. So the first thing you're going to need to do in order to use the command line is to actually have your command shell open. This is either going to be terminal on a Mac or the git bash on WSL or git bash if you're on Windows. I have mine open already because I had to get the window sized correctly for the video. If you can check back in the course text for details on how exactly to open the shell. In general, the best way to think about the command line, the command shell, is sort of a text-based version of Finder or File Explorer. So I actually have a copy of Finder open up here on the side, so you can sort of see how these two things open together. So looking at the shell, we can see the command prompt is sort of our first piece. It tells me what machine I'm currently on. This is my computer, my laptop's name. It tells me what directory I'm currently in. The little tilde means the home directory. This is like sort of your home user directory. And then it tells me what user I'm logged in as. It has a $sign. It's sort of saying that's the end of that information. And then it has the prompt where I can actually type stuff in if I wanted to. Stuff in. And then of course delete it as I need to. Note that on the command line you can't use the mouse to like move the cursor around because it's a text-based entry. It doesn't actually understand the mouse really at all. So if you want to change your cursor, you have to like use the arrow keys to move stuff around. All right, good. So great. So we've got this command shell. Like, what do we do with this thing? Well, just like when we open up the command shell, just like when we open up Finder, it opens up to a particular folder. So in this case, like I've got Finder open, and when I just opened up Finder, it showed me my home directory, right? The one that contains the desktop and documents and my downloads and so forth. I'm getting the same thing inside the command line. But we can confirm that and show that it's to actually figure out what folder we're doing that by using a command. So if we type the command pwd, which is the name of the command, it's short for print working directory because the command line is designed to be as fast to type as possible. So it basically makes these really arcane acronyms for everything. But so if we run the pwd command, and then I'm going to hit enter in order to actually send that command, you'll see that immediately below that, it'll give me the result, the output of sending that command, and it'll print the working directory. It tells me what folder I'm currently in. It says I'm currently in the users class folder. So this tells us the path to the directory. So again, you'll notice that I'm in the class folder, which has a slash, so it means that's inside the users folder, which then has this leading slash because that's inside the root of my computer. If you look in Finder, I'm actually showing the same thing. I'm in the class directory, which is inside the users directory, which is inside like my hard drive. It's on my computer. Cool. So of course, Finder also shows us, what's inside this directory, right? Like, look, there's a bunch of folders and folders inside of here. So we can do the same thing on the command line by, again, using another command. So we're inside this folder. If we want to actually know sort of what's here, we can use a command called ls, which is the list command, and that will list the contents of the current directory. So again, I'm going to hit enter to run that command, and then it gives me a list of what things are in here, what folders are in here. And you'll notice that there's applications, downloads, the desktop, documents, downloads, Dropbox library. Again, it's the same stuff that we're seeing in Finder because it's literally just the exact same application. Great. If we want to then, now if we're in Finder and we want to be able to then do something with this, what we generally do is we'd go navigate into one of these folders. In Finder, you would move your mouse and you'd select what you want, like the desktop, and you would double click on that, and that would then changes the Finder window and takes you up into that folder. So now I'm inside my desktop where there's now this My Project folder. We do the same thing on the command line by using a command called cd, which stands for change directory. Now the cd command takes what's called an argument because we're going to specify what folder I want to change into. So in this case, we're going to run cd, and if I want to change to my desktop, I would type desktop, and then when I hit enter, you'll notice that something changed, right? My command prompt now says that I'm not in that tilde, that home directory. I'm now in the desktop folder. Similarly, now that I'm here, if I type pwd and I want to know what folder I'm in, it says that I'm now in the desktop folder that's inside the class folder, it's inside the users folder. And if I write ls to see what's in here, I can see there's that My Project folder. Again, just what Finder is telling us. It's doing the exact same thing. So again, we can write cd with an argument. The arguments are always separated by spaces, and we need to type out the name of the folder. Mac and Linux are case sensitive. Windows should be case sensitive, so it's really best to just make sure your cases are correct. Good. What do we do next? All right, so this cd lets us be able to change directories. If I want to be able to move multiple folders, I can do that as well. So in Finder, I might say, okay, I want to go into my project, and then I want to go into the analysis folder, right? That's 2 steps, right? Doing 2 jumps. We can do the same thing in the command line. I can use cd and say that I want to go into the my project folder. And then because I now want to go further, I'm going to put a slash to say that now I want to go to another folder after that and go into then the analysis folder. And if I do that work, it now takes me into analysis. I can run my pwd again to see that I'm now inside analysis, inside my project, inside of desktop, inside of class, inside of users. And of course, ls, I can now see that there's this text report.txt file that's sitting inside of here. So again, we use these slashes to break off which directory we're trying to refer to and how we're going to get around. Note that all of these things that I've typed in so far as my arguments to cd have all been these relative paths. They've always been said what folders I want to go in from this particular location. So if I'm inside of the desktop folder, then I can say go to my project analysis. But if I was inside, say, the home folder and I just said go into the my project folder, it wouldn't know where to go because there is no my project folder inside of my home folder. It was on the desktop. So we can specify absolute paths, which are basically saying not where to go from here, but where to go from sort of the base of the computer itself by putting this leading slash in front of the path. So for example, if I say I want to do cd /users/class, that would take me back to my home directory because it would say go back to the start of the computer, and then from there go into users and go into class. If I just tried to go cd /user/class, it wouldn't get me anywhere because there is no users folder here. All I can see is this report.txt file. It's all it's right here. So for example, we can do this to go back to the home directory. I'm going to point out similarly that if you want to use a shortcut, the tilde, which is the squiggly mark, you usually find it sort of right above the backtick key, right next to the 1 on the side of your keyboard, which is like right there, if you can see that. But that's sort of a shorthand. It's basically like an alias for /user/ whatever your username is. So that will take you back to your home directory no matter what. You have to remember what actual username is typed in. You'll have to type in the /user stuff. Cool. All right. So yeah, but this is what I'm saying is you have to make sure we're using this these absolute. You know, be careful about these absolute or relative paths. So for example, like if I try to do cd, if I'm in my home directory and now I want to go cd /user, let's do, if I want to then say, if I try to say let's use an absolute path to say let's go into from the root of my computer / go into the desktop, then you'll notice what happened is that I get an error message. And this is an example of the kinds of feedback that the command line might give you if you make a mistake, if you do something wrong, which happens all the time. In this case, we're saying the bash is giving us a message. There's an error with cd /desktop. There's no such file or directory. Like, it doesn't know how to find /desktop, so it can't move from there. So again, if I want to change into my desktop, I have to use this relative path without the slash in front of it. In general, the command line is really bad about giving feedback. The messages it do give you tend to be really kind of opaque and they're hard to understand. They're not even easy to sort of search and understand. So often you need to sort of spend a little bit of time sort of staring at it, trying to figure out what exactly is this thing talking about, what does it might mean, why is it even giving this message, try to look to see what you did, and if you get stuck, come back, ask for help. We're really here, we're happy to help. All right, cool. The other last quick note that I want to make sure to note about using the command line, if you type cd and you type out, say, like a D, and I'm like, not sure, like, wait a second, how did I spell desktop? That's a weird word. I mean, is it 2 words? Is it 1 word? Capital T? I don't know. If you hit the tab key twice, it'll basically, the computer will give you a list of all the different files that have that folders that have that name from where we are. So if I just type cd and then hit tab, it'll give me a list of these different words. If I then type in, say, desktop, just the DE part, I just type in the beginning of the word. If I hit tab again, it will automatically fill in the word for me. And so this tab completion, the ability to sort of type in just the first couple letters and hit tab to finish up, is one of the best shortcuts and the easiest way to sort of navigate around quickly through the directory. And it's also a really good way to make sure you're actually typing in the path correctly. So you'll notice that if I do cdd and I type the tab, it automatically auto-completes. But if I have a slash in front of it, and I try hitting tab, I'm getting nothing's happening, and you can actually maybe hear the beeping error, because again, I'm having a problem because there is no such folder. So I might say, oh, maybe that slash isn't supposed to be there. Cool. Great, so let's go back to the desktop. So we can go back to our desktop, and then of course I can go into my project. And again, notice that I typed in the my, and I hit tab, and it auto-completed that process. So I can jump back into my project, and we're good to go. Okay, so here we are. We're back inside of my project. In Finder, right, if I was inside of this, I just did it, right? If I'm inside this My Project folder and I wanted to go back up to the desktop, I've got a little back arrow button I can use up here in the corner. On the command line, there is no such back up button. So while I could sort of move my way back up by using the absolute path, right, doing cd, /user/class. If I want to go back up a directory, I can instead use a shortcut symbol for the command line gives us, which are going to be 2 dots. So the 2 dots means the parent folder, the containing folder, the one that has the folder that I'm inside of. So if I do cd ... that's basically saying go change directory to go up 1 level. And if I do that, that takes me up 1 level, and it takes me back into my desktop, whereas where I want to be in the first place. All right. We can also use these 2 dots as part of sort of an extended path. So for example, if I go into my project and I jump into this data folder, which again, if this looks like, so I'm currently inside this data folder. If I want to say go up a directory and then go back down into analysis, on the command line, I can do cd ... to say go up a directory, and then I'm going to put a slash to say that, and then go into another folder, and then I can say then go into the analysis folder, and again, that tab completion finishes things up, and then that'll let me be able to quickly jump around to be able to get through different pieces of this application. All right, so here's a chance to practice, and you sort of play along at home. So if we start in users, desktop, start in the desktop folder, and then we do a command cd ... /desktop /lectures /... remember 1 dot meaning the current folder, /... where do we end up? Well, we can basically, in order to figure this stuff out, we can then try to sort of work our way through it step by step. So I'm currently in desktop. If I go ... that takes me up to iGuest. I'm then going back down to desktop. I'm then going down into a lectures folder. I'm then going back up to desktop. I then go to my current location, which was desktop. I then go back up, which takes me to iGuest. So this, in the end, I end up back in my home directory. Excellent. All right, let's do one more. So if we start again in the desktop folder and we do a command cd /... /desktop, where do we end up? All right, so again, what's happening here is that we're not saying go up a directory to iGuest and then go back down to desktop. There's this leading slash here at the beginning. There's this piece that says that we're going to start our consideration from the beginning of our computer, not from the current location. So this actually says is go to the beginning of your computer, right? Go to the root directory, then go up 1 directory, which can't actually happen, and then from there go into desktop. But there is no desktop folder in the root directory, so you're actually going to get an error that says that I can't go anywhere. There's nowhere for this, such folder doesn't exist. Depending on your operating system, sometimes going up a directory from the root directory causes an error on its own. Sometimes it just takes you to the root directory because the parent of the root directory is the root directory itself. So it really varies a little bit. Good. So again, the really important point here is to keep in mind the distinction between whether we're using a relative path or this absolute path. Almost 100% of the time, we want to be using relative paths, right? We don't want to be putting a leading slash in front of anything. Almost never do we want to be using leading slashes. So in general, make sure you don't have that leading slash there, and you're talking about how to get to a particular folder from where you happen to be now, and you'll be just fine. Okay, so there's a bunch of other commands as well. Lots of other commands in the command line. Hundreds of these other commands. A couple of which are mentioned in the described in the course text. Which of others you'll sort of come across as we do some exercises. But I want to only show one more sort of fun one that works on a Mac. This won't work on Windows, but just to sort of show off what you can do. So we can do stuff like we can use a say command and say the command line is awesome sauce. And if we do so,
command line is awesome sauce,
then the computer can talk to us, and we can actually use the computer to do some of this kind of work. The thing that I want to know, part of the reason I'm using an example, is that if I use the arrow keys, if I hit the up arrow, then you'll notice what happened is that my terminal prompt immediately just replaced, or like it showed up the previous command that I just ran. So this way, if you type a command and it doesn't quite work, you don't have to necessarily type it all out again from scratch. You can use the up arrow to say, go back to the previous command. and then use the side arrows back and forth to be able to navigate through it in order to be able to adjust it. So for example, I can take my previous line that said command line is awesome sauce, and I can modify it
Command line is totes awesome sauce.
in order to be able to do it again. And then again, if I hit the up arrows, I can be able to travel and sort of like cycle back through all the commands I wrote. The down arrow will let me sort of go back the direction I had so that I can be able to navigate back and forth between these commands. So again, you can use up and down arrows to sort of cycle through commands, use tab to automatically complete things, and this will let you be able to type out these commands fairly quickly and be able to sort of use that to navigate around the command line and get to where you want to do and what you need to be able to do. Okay, actually there is one more piece that I wanted to demo. So we're going to try as an example, I'm going to use what's called the echo command. The echo command will echo some content back to you. It basically takes whatever you type in and it prints it out back to you so you can be able to see it on the terminal. So for example, it prints it out. So I could say, for example, echo hello world, and then if I hit enter, it'll then show me the text that I typed out, hello world. Hello world is the traditional first programming language. We're going to come back to this one later as we go. So that's our base example. Now what happens if I try to do echo hello world, but I forget to put that closing quote, right? You notice how now I've started my quote, but I have not ended my quote. If I hit enter, it doesn't print out hello world, instead it just puts this bracket, this angle symbol, angle arrow in there. And I might be like, that's weird, so I hit enter again and again. Why is it not working? I'm gonna try it again, echo hello world, it still doesn't do stuff. I'm like, hello, right, help, quit, exit, right, everything starts falling apart. So the reason that this is doing it, like what's going on here is that our command line is waiting for us to finish this quote, to finish this text that I wrote with inside these double quotes. And because I haven't finished that quote yet, it doesn't realize that it thinks that I'm still typing text, so that when I hit the enter key, it actually took me to the next line of the words I'm typing, as opposed to using the enter key to send the command. So you'll notice that like, I try to get out of here. If I go ahead and I eventually close my quote, and I hit my command, then it'll go ahead and it'll output and it'll print and echo all the things that I mentioned that I wanted to be able to say. Exit, great, hello. So that's one of these ways in which this command line can, again, like it doesn't give great feedback explaining what's going on, and so it's potential to find things that break or get confusing and how these things work. So the thing that I want to sort of make sure to notice is if something like this happens to you, right? If you, oh God, don't go up. If we try to do echo hello world and I forget the quote again and I find myself here and I don't know what the problem was, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I closed the quote, I don't know why it's not ending, what's going on here. The command that you can use, sort of the magic way to get out of here, is you're going to hit the command, you're going to hit the control button and hold that down and then hit the C button. C for cancel. So control C is your shortcut to cancel, to get out, to stop whatever command is currently being run in the command line. So if you start typing something out, control C will stop that. If you have a program that is running and it's like just getting stalled, not going anywhere, control C will stop that. So that's the way that you sort of get out of things, and you can basically cancel from the command line. So the thing that I always say is to remember is you hit control C to flee, and that will let you be able to get out of where you need to go. All right, so that's about the fundamentals of the command line. That should be able to get you enough to be able to move through files and begin controlling your computer. There's a lot of other commands to learn, but the way to sort of pick these up is in part to see an example how they go and try to sort of learn little bits of these pieces as you go. There's only a couple different commands we really care about for this class, and then other ones to let you play around with just for experimentation.